Welcome back to Soundwave. My name is Achilles Woodger, and you're watching episode 3. Today, I'm reviewing GNX by Kendrick Lamar. So let's get right into it. So this album was crazy. I mean, it was a surprise drop on Friday, and it took me by surprise, and it took a lot of people by surprise. Everyone was freaking out when it came out. It was just a different album from Kendrick. He's never done a West Coast sounding album before, quite like this. He's doing very modern West Coast beats, and there's just so many great songs on this album. I mean, we can go from top to bottom. Squabble Up is really the first banger off this album, and then we're going into Luther with SZA, and then going into Man in the Garden, which was a more of a conceptual track, but I really enjoyed it. And then we're going into tracks like Peekaboo, Hey Now, Dodger Blue, just all these really West Coast sounding tracks. And Kendrick is pulling in a lot of different people into these songs, a lot of underground West Coast artists. And it was just a very different album. It was just really fun. And Kendrick, he's always known how to switch up his sound and how to have fun when he needs to, and also when to be serious. And I think he balances it very well on this album. I mean, GNX is probably one of the most diverse performances we've seen from Kendrick this decade. Following Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, it's different. It's not as emotional. There are some emotional tracks though, like The Heart Part 6, for example. Gloria. Luther is a really emotional R&B cut off this album that I thought was different, but it also pulled, it felt similar to tracks like Loyalty off of Damn. There's just a lot of great tracks on this album, and it just blew me away that Kendrick was able to bring us this album on short notice, because there was no lead up to this album prior, except for a 1-minute snippet titled GNX, and it was just great. It was a very, very special album. However, I do think that he will be dropping another project either this year or next year. And the reason I believe that is because a lot of people close to Kendrick have been saying that this isn't over, right? Like his dominance, it's not done. He's not going to stop. And I wholeheartedly believe that he's not done. I think he's going to be dropping another project. I think it'll be more of a concept album, because GNX wasn't much of a concept album. He had some deep songs like The Heart Part 6 and Gloria, and Man in the Garden, but I think his next project might break the boundaries. GNX definitely broke boundaries, but it was in a different way, right? He's making a lot of club hits. He's making a lot of bangers, right? These short songs that are, just fast-paced and just stacked with features. But and following the success of Not Like Us, I think GNX was a great contribution to his songs this year. I mean, a lot of these songs were similar to Not Like Us. Even TV Off was produced by Mustard, which, he produced Not Like Us, and we can see these collaborations, SZA and Kendrick. SZA's on 2 of the tracks on this album, and I think Kendrick is bringing together just so many nice underground West Coast artists that we haven't seen before, that just are really talented. And so my favorite tracks off this album are Whacked Out Mural and Heart Part 6. And then my least favorite off this album are probably Peekaboo and GNX. The only reason I say that is because they just seem they're lighthearted tracks, they're fun, they're fast, they're shorter tracks. They're still great, right? But it's just, in the grand scheme of the album, I think they're the 2 weakest tracks. And so finally, GNX by Kendrick Lamar has been getting a Wave score of 8.1. It's been a ride for sure. I've listened to it over 5 times, and it's just a great album. And I'm excited to see what Kendrick Lamar has left in store for us.